Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into a huge stack of material to answer what seems like a really simple question.
It does.
What is the single fastest, most effective change a golfer can make right now to guarantee a better experience on the course?
The answer is, well, it's not a new swing lesson. It's not that $1,000 driver.
No, it's simply which set of tee markers you decide to play from.
It seems so small, almost like an administrative choice you make before the round really starts. But what our deep dive shows is that optimizing this one decision playing from the tee box that matches your ability, not, your ego,
Right.
is the greatest shortcut to better scores, much faster rounds, and just a huge improvement in enjoyment for you and everyone else out there.
That's the whole mission for today. We're going to get past that surface level advice and really try to understand the deep cultural and psychological reasons that stop most golfers from making this really smart choice.
Yeah, the resistance is the interesting part.
We're looking at material that argues golf has just become unnecessarily hard. Tradition and club identity are trumping actual ability. And we're going to look at some specific cultures, particularly in places like Germany, where this loyalty to tradition is really slowing things down.
It's a fundamental clash, isn't it? It's a battle between your actual ability on one side and,
Right.
all these other forces, habit, club identity, even gender expectations. What's so fascinating is that the official rules, the global systems, they already support all this flexibility. The fight isn't with the rule book.
It's with the culture of the club itself.
Exactly. It's with the everyday etiquette and that sort of ingrained status structure you see at almost every local club.
Okay, so let's start at square one. Before we even get into the psychology of it, we have to understand the basic physics of the mistake people are making. Our sources say the second you choose tees that are too long for your game, you trigger this. Well, they call it the geometry of struggle.
I love that phrase. The game becomes structurally flawed. It's not just hard, it becomes brutally difficult when you start every single hole from a yardage that is just completely out of sync with how far you actually hit the ball.
You're setting yourself up for failure from the jump.
You are. The course is forcing you into these heroic, low-percentage shots over and over again.
And this creates a predictable and, frankly, a really frustrating chain reaction that just sabotages the entire experience. So lay that out for us. What happens step by step when you play from too far back?
Okay, so it all begins with the approach shot into the green. If you're playing a course that's, say, 500 yards longer than it should be for you, that means your second shot is now miles outside your comfort zone.
Right.
So instead of having a nice, comfortable 8-iron into a 350-yard par 4,
Look.
you're now standing there facing 180, 190 yards. You have to pull out a 3 hybrid or a fairway wood.
And the second you do that, the chance of you actually hitting the green just drops off a cliff.
Absolutely. The average amateur hits a 7-iron so much more consistently than a 4-iron or a hybrid. So longer approaches mean you're going to miss way more greens.
Yeah.
Statistically, you might hit, 20% of greens with a hybrid from 180 yards?
Versus 50 or 60% with a short iron from 130.
Exactly. And more missed greens means you're now dealing with the hardest, most time-consuming parts of golf.
More bunker shots, more chips from weird lies, scrambling just to try and make a double bogey.
It's the definition of a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
The end result of that whole sequence is it's non-negotiable. You get higher scores, a much slower pace of play, and for you, the listener, this mounting frustration that can lead to burnout.
So the big realization here, the thing people need to hear, is that this isn't about how much you practice or how talented you are.
No.
You can be on the range 10 hours a week, but if you step onto a tee box that demands a 240-yard drive just to have a decent look at the green, you've structurally broken the hole for yourself.
Precisely. It's just math. It's geometry. When you're constantly facing shots you can't reasonably pull off, like needing a miracle 200-yard carry over water.
Yeah, just to get to the fairway.
Right. The whole game changes. It stops being about strategy and planning and executing a shot you can hit, and it just becomes exhausting damage control. You're just trying to avoid the triple bogey instead of trying to make par.
Okay, that makes the problem crystal clear. Frustration is just the ceiling you hit when the course doesn't match your game. Now, this is where it gets really interesting for me because the solution is right there, but it asks golfers to overcome a lifetime of tradition.
The modern game is just unequivocal about this. Ability beats ego every single time. The sources make a really compelling case that the old school way of
You
thinking,
mean men play the back tees, women play the forward tees?
that exact tradition, it's archaic, it's totally irrelevant to how well someone actually plays golf.
And the crazy thing is, the framework to fix this is already built. Talk about course rating and slope rating, because these tools exist for this exact reason, but so many people just ignore what they're telling them.
They do. The World Handicap System has laid out all the architecture we need. The course rating, that tells you what a scratch golfer, zero handicap, should shoot from a set of tees.
Okay.
But the slope rating, that's the number that's really crucial for the rest of us.
So what is the slope rating actually measuring?
It measures how much harder that course gets for a high handicapper compared to that scratch player. A higher slope number means the course gets disproportionately harder the worse you are. So if you play the wrong tees,
You're just ignoring the data that's designed to help you.
you're ignoring the data that tells you which tee box will give you the fairest test for your game.
So the system is literally saying, hey, a 20 handicapper playing from the 6,000-yard tees can have a statistically fair game against a 5 handicapper playing from 6,400 yards. But the 20 handicapper insists on playing from the back anyway.
Exactly. The framework is ready for the change. The golfer isn't. But when you finally do align your tees with your actual ability, the benefits are just instantaneous. You stop trying to play someone else's golf course.
Pars become, tangible goals again, not these distant fantasies.
That's a huge point. They stop being miracles that only happen if you hole out a chip. You start walking up to the green with confidence because you know your second shot is manageable.
Instead of with fear, knowing you have to smash some low percentage shot just to get close.
Right. And psychologically, this just eliminates those catastrophic holes. The triple bogeys, the snowman, the eights. Those are the emotional black holes that derail entire rounds and make people quit the game.
So what's the international trend here? Where is the game heading?
The direction is really clear. Clubs and federations all over the world are moving toward this idea of best tees, or tees for your game, not ego tees. And the countries that are actively promoting this report huge improvements in pace of play, player retention, and just a more inclusive vibe.
But relying only on handicap can be a little tricky, can't it? It's an average. It can change. Is there a more practical, on-the-ground benchmark that clubs are using?
Yes, and this is where it gets beautifully simple. A lot of progressive clubs have adopted a really practical rule of thumb. They use your average comfortable 7-iron distance as the guide.
The 7-iron. Why that club specifically?
Because the 7-iron is kind of the ideal middle ground for consistency. It's the club that most amateurs can hit predictably enough to establish a true baseline carry distance.
Unlike a driver, which can be all over the place.
Right, or a wedge, which is too short. The goal is so straightforward. Pick a set of tees that lets you reach most of the par 4s in 2 solid shots, and the par 5s in regulation with some smart strategy.
So if you carry your 7-iron, say, 140 yards, you find a tee box that sets up par 4s where a decent drive plus that 140 yards leaves you with a mid-iron, not a hybrid.
You got it. It makes the game accessible and strategic again. And we have to be crystal clear here. This does not make golf easier. The challenge is still there. What it does is make golf fair. And fairness is what allows you to actually measure your progress, which keeps you engaged and improving.
Which brings us right to the heart of the problem. If the benefits are so obvious, lower scores, faster play, more fun, why on earth do people resist? And our sources are pretty clear. It's rarely a rational decision. It's almost all about ego and identity.
The psychological barriers are just immense. And they're what club leaders in these, traditionally rigid golf cultures like in Bavaria need to deal with head on. First, a lot of golfers tie their tee choice directly to their status at the club.
To their peer group, yeah. To move forward feels like a public demotion, even if it means you shoot a lower score.
That's a massive point. The little voice in your head is saying, if I move up, people will think I'm not good enough to play with them. They're terrified of being judged.
And that fear gets magnified in clubs where tradition is everything. The second factor is that loyalty to tradition itself. You've got members who've played for 20 years, and they insist they have to play the blue tees because that's what men do.
Even though that tradition has produced 2 decades of frustration and failure for them.
It's loyalty to the idea of playing from the back, even when it guarantees they play badly. It's a kind of self-sabotage, really.
It is.
Yeah.
The resistance isn't about what's on the scorecard. It's about social standing. And we have to reframe that thinking and aggressively. Playing tees that are way too long for you doesn't signal strength. It signals stubbornness.
Right. It shows a lack of awareness about your own game.
Real confidence comes from setting yourself up to play your absolute best golf.
And this is where the opportunity for that cultural change comes in. The sources make a big point that places like traditional German golf clubs, they don't need new rules from the top down. The global framework is already there.
It is.
What they need is clear, proactive leadership at the local level. They need better communication.
That's the weak link. The communication about why and how to use the flexible system. Club leaders have to step up and make this decision easy and, most importantly, stigma-free. They need to show that playing the right tee is a sign of intelligence.
Okay, so let's get practical. What are some actionable steps a club could take tomorrow to start making this shift happen?
First and most important, visible tee recommendations. And these have to be based purely on distance or handicap range. Take gender, age, status, all of it out of the equation.
Yeah.
Just post a sign that says, if your 7-iron goes 140, 160 meters, please play T3.
That makes the choice data-driven, not ego-driven. And to take away that social pressure from that colors, championship versus forward and all that.
You have to use neutral labeling.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Switch from red, white, blue, black to T1, T2, T3, or just use the yardage. The second you take the color away, you take the implied status away, and it's easier for someone to choose the right number.
And what about tournament play? That could be a huge catalyst.
A massive one. If the biggest events at the club normalize multi-tee play, it sends a powerful message.
So like run a scramble where partners have to play from different tees based on their ability?
Perfect example. If the club champion is seen playing a more forward tee in a specific format to gain a strategic edge, it instantly makes it okay for everyone else to do it in their casual rounds.
And really, it all comes back to education, as you said. The message has to be simple and constant. Choosing the right tees doesn't make golf easier.
It makes golf better.
Yeah.
And that is the message golfers have to internalize. This isn't about playing shorter. It's about playing smarter. It is the single most important decision you'll make all day.
Because it determines the fairness of the entire test ahead of you. If every golfer, whether you're in a traditional club in Europe or a new player in North America, just played from the tees that actually matched their ability.
The whole sport would feel more rewarding,
And
instantly.
way less frustrating.
So let's just run through that final benefits checklist for you, the listener.
Yeah.
You do this one simple thing this weekend. You dramatically increase your chances to make par. You speed up play for everyone behind you. Your confidence skyrockets.
And your overall enjoyment of the game just goes through the roof. Because success leads to fun.
And fun keeps people in the game. Look, golf doesn't need to be artificially harder to be meaningful. It needs to be fair, intelligent, and aligned with reality. And that whole shift starts right there on the first tee.
It's amazing that the fix for a physical game is purely psychological. The entire geometry of struggle is just solved by getting over your ego. And that really makes us wonder about the rigidity we apply elsewhere. So we'll leave you with this final thought. Since success leads to fun, and fun keeps people engaged, how might embracing fairness, even when it challenges our ideas about status, be the key to the long-term health and enjoyment of any traditionally rigid sport or activity you're a part of?
Go play smart, not long.
That's it for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.